Matthew, how would you respond to this about teaching circumcised foreskin is to deny the blood of the new covenant? How would you respond to that?
I do not teach that circumcision is an act of law that forgives you of your sin. That's what Paul is against in Galatians 5. That's the circumcision he doesn't preach. Galatians 5:4 says, you who are trying to be justified, the word justified means to forgive sin. That goes for any law. You're not justified by any law, whether it's circumcision or honoring your father and your mother. If we were justified by law, we'd be most miserable of people because we've all violated Yahweh's law. So we're forgiven of our sin based on the work of Messiah. So I don't teach circumcision as an act that forgives you of your sin. I believe a Gentile convert could die in uncircumcision and still be in the kingdom of heaven at a later point. According to the prophet Ezekiel, there will have to be a circumcision of the flesh, because no stranger uncircumcised in heart or flesh will be able to enter into that Messianic era temple. But as far as him dying right now, being uncircumcised, I think that's a matter of Yahweh working through a person, giving them faith, and them getting circumcised for the right reasons. I would never pressure somebody to do that so that they would be forgiven of sin.
Okay, thank you. Carlos, do you have anything to say on that?
Genesis 17 is clear. If any male is not circumcised, that person will be cut off from his people. You're dead. All the commandments of God are to be obeyed. If they're not obeyed, you're dead. You're not in the kingdom. And that's not Carlos saying it, that's God himself saying it. Read carefully Genesis 17 regarding circumcision. The Jerusalem church in Acts 15 failed miserably because they did not get us Gentiles circumcised on the spot. That's what God said in Genesis 17 to do. They did not do it. Almost 10 years later in Acts 21, James says, nope, the Gentiles are good to go. So when did this further Torah observance for Gentiles come into play, circumcision come into play? God has to be obeyed. Obviously, as far as we can, we're fallen creatures, all of us, but we have to try and obey all the laws. And these laws are specific, they're clear. If you do not circumcise your males, you're dead.
May I make a quick comment?
Sure.
Joshua, everybody go read Joshua 5:1-8. In Joshua 5, this is part of the Hexateuch, the book right after the Pentateuch, okay? So Joshua 5, none of the little Israelite baby boys were circumcised during the 40 years in the wilderness. So Joshua had a commandment to get sharp flint knives and circumcise those little baby boys. None of them were cut off. There was a grace period there for 40 years. This is under the old covenant now. A grace period for 40 years where they were not cut off, even though those boys were not circumcised.